Hello, nature lovers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Environmental Systems and Societies. Today's episode is all about resource use, and the key points are that there's 4 ways to categorize resources. Sustainability is the goal of resource use, and each person has their own ecological footprint. Now, to kind of explain all this, I want to use money as an analogy for resource use. Smart people plan so that their money will support them their whole life. Okay, and they live off instead of living off the principal, they live off the interest. And if you do this right, you can invest your money so that it makes money and you live off that. Okay, an investment could be stocks, it could be a rental house, it could be a loan to your friend as long as they give you a little extra back. And of course, the whole goal is to maximize what you get back off that investment. So, as you might guess, with any investment, you can lose all your principal. If you make a bad choice, your house can get beaten up by the people that rent it, or your friend can get struck by lightning before she can give you money back. You just don't know. So you got to be really careful about how you invest your money. And the reason I'm talking so much about money is it's a great analogy for resource use, because our world has a lot of resources: water, plants, minerals, animals, soil, nutrients, pollinators, all sorts of stuff. And all of these resources can be spent really quickly and then gone forever, or we can manage these resources, invest them, and live off of them forever sustainably. Okay? So, you can obviously tell which side I think, right? Well, let's start with what resources really are. There's 4 types. The first type is a non-renewable resource, and these are resources that once used are gone forever. Fossil fuels, uranium, even biodiversity or endangered species. We use them up, they're gone forever. Okay, the second type is renewable. These are resources that will replace themselves in less than 50 years. So a tree, you can chop down a tree and use it, but it's going to grow back in about 50 years and you can do it again over and over. Same with tomatoes. You can pick a tomato, plant the seeds, and have it again. The third type is replenishable, and these are resources that can replace themselves, but it takes more than 50 years. Soil is a great example that nobody thinks about. Water in the Aral Sea, we've talked about that with the TED Talks and so forth. This stuff can be replenished, but it takes a long time. Okay, and then finally, recyclable resources. And these are resources like glass that you can take, break down, process, and immediately use it again. So you don't have to use new resources. Okay, so glass, paper, that kind of stuff. Now, continuing with our analogy, if you had a diamond ring and you needed money, you could sell that ring, but once you've sold it, it's gone. You can't get it back. You might have some money for a couple weeks, but then you're right back where you were, but you have nothing to sell this time. Now, by contrast, if we took some tomatoes that we were growing out back and we sold them to our neighbor or at a market, then we still have some tomatoes to eat, and more will grow through the summer, so we keep having tomatoes. Plus, in the tomatoes are seeds, and we can take those seeds and plant them and then use them again next year so we can generate more money over and over and over. Okay? The first idea is spending our principal. The second idea is living off our interest. Okay? And that's what sustainability is. Sustainability is using your resources in a way that will allow future generations to use those same resources. Okay? It's living off your interest. So if we use all our oil up now, there'll be none for our grandchildren if they really need it. But if we use wind energy, we'll still have plenty for our grandchildren. So yeah, sure, sometimes it takes longer to live off of our interest than our principal. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it costs a little bit more, but it's what helps our grandchildren. It's what helps future generations. Now, each person has what we call an ecological footprint, and this is a measurement of how much stuff they use, okay? We measure it in amount of land, and to calculate it, you gotta do 2 things. You gotta figure out how much land is needed to generate or produce everything you do: eat, wear, drive, all that stuff. Where does it come from? How much land does it take to make it? And also, how much land does it take to deal with the waste? So when that stuff falls apart, where do we put it? The rotten sewage, wherever. How much land it takes, you put those together, and that is your footprint. Now, if we take the amount of land that is good on the planet and divide it by the total amount of people, it's 1.6 hectares per person, and we call that a fair earth share. People in India use about 0.8 hectares, so about half of Earth's share. People in China use an Earth share. People in the United States, well, let's say Germany first. People in Germany use 5 Earth shares, and people in the United States use 10.3 Earth shares. At that rate, it would take 4 Earths 5 Earths, to replace, to fill up the resources that we need. Okay? Now we can choose to live off this principle right now, use it up, and generations in the future are screwed. Or we can choose to invest our principle, live wisely off our resources, and there'll be enough for 7 generations from now. The choice is ours. So I hope that you have learned that resources can be categorized in 4 ways. Sustainability is the goal of wise resource use, and each person has an ecological footprint. If this doesn't make sense, please come see me. This is a gorilla, baby. Peace out.